Every time we talk about the genres of literature, ang lagi nating naiisip at naalala ay yung fiction at non-fiction. Pero yun lang ba talagang genres of literature? The answer is no, there's actually more. Kaya naman stay tuned because that's what we're going to discuss in this video. Let's talk about the 5 main genres of literature. This is based sa lesson namin sa Survey of English and American Literature sa College of Education sa PUP. Kaya naman I always say na in the POV of the College of Education. By the way, I made a previous video discussing about the literature and the 7 literary standards, so kung di mo pa alam yun and you really need to know about it, check out the card flash on your screen or you can just watch it later after this video. I'll be putting the link in the description. Sa module namin sa world literature, ang literary genres ay dalawa lang, fiction and non-fiction. Tapos under ng fiction yung prose and poetry. Pero knowing na meron pang mas maraming genres bukod sa dalawang yun na common nating na-encounter, I think it's much better to discuss that. So what are the 5 major literary genres? Today, ang discussion natin ay based sa article ng indie.com na the 5 main literary genres, definitions, and examples. Let's go ahead and discuss them one by one. First, poetry. A poem is a piece of literature that uses rhythmic qualities of language. Meter, rhythm, and focus on the sound of syllables, words, and phrases are the qualities of a poem that make it different from the other types of literature. Basically, may elements or qualities yung poem na nagdi-distinguish sa kanya sa ibang uri ng literature. Sa poetry, lines ang ginagamit instead of sentences at ang grupo ng lines na ito ay tinatawag namang stanzas instead of paragraphs. As we know, kadalasan mayroon itong meter or kung ilang syllables ang meron sa kada line. Meron din itong rhythm o yung rhyme scheme o yung magkakatunog the words sa dulo ng lines. The purpose of poetry is to convey meaning through imagery and metaphors rather than to provide complete, grammatically accurate sentences. Basically, ang poetry is more on the expression of the author sa pamagitan ng paggamit ng mga mabubulaklak na mga salita, ng mga talinghaga or imagery at mga metaphors. The authors don't basically care about the grammar or proper divisions of sentences. It's about the art of playing with those words to convey kung ano yung gusto nilang sabihin. Some subgenres of poetry. Now let's proceed sa ilang subgenres of poetry. Una, epic. Long verse narratives retelling the heroic journey of an individual or a group of individuals. Basically, ang keyword sa epic ay yung heroic. Kadalasan makikita natin sa epic poetry yung mga characters na may superhuman abilities, nagkakwento ito ng mga adventures, and mayroon itong mga lyrical elements paminsan-minsan or yung pakanta. Sunod naman ay a narrative. A narrative poem tells a story through poetic techniques such as rhyme, rhythm, similes, and metaphors. From the word itself, ang mga narrative poems ay nagnanarrate ng mga kwento pero in a poetic way. So ginagamit pa rin niya yung rhymes and all other elements of poetry pero may story siya gaya ng novels. With that, mas mahaba yung ganitong klase ng poetry kaysa sa iba. Next is lyric. Lyric poems are short, highly musical verses that express powerful emotions. A lyric poem is a personal expression of emotion written by a single individual. Ito yung type of poetry na musical or nilalapatan ng tono. Maybe it makes sense kung bakit lyrics ang tawag natin sa lyrics ng mga kanta. It says na nag-express ito ng powerful emotions because ang lyric poems ay sinusulat for different purposes and therefore different expressions. Let's talk about the type of poems under lyric poems. First is elegy. Ito yung mga poems na ginagawa kadalasan para sa mga taong namatay or someone or something that's lost. Ang in-express sa poem ay lament, sorrow, kalungkutan. But do not confuse it with eulogy. Basically, ang pinagkaiba ng elegy at eulogy is ang elegy ay written poem para sa namatay while yung eulogy naman ay mas kilala natin dito sa Pilipinas as tribute message or yung speech bilang pag-alala sa burol noong taong namatay. Sonnet. Kilala naman ito for having 14 lines. Kadalasan tungkol ito sa love pero according sa Oregon State University, ginagamit din ito ng poets noon para sa iba't ibang range ng kanilang subjects kagaya ng war, religion, and value of poetry itself. And ode. Sabi ng masterclass, yung ode naman ay nag-express ng pagpuri sa tao or ideya or isang event. Then, dramatic. Dramatic poetry is poetry that's written in verse for public recitation or performance. Ito naman yung intended to be performed, more on acting. Now, let's move on to fiction. Fiction are stories created using the imagination of writers. Writers of fiction use figurative language to create stories of completely untrue events, characters, and settings to stimulate the imagination of their readers. Basically, as we all know, pag sinabing fiction, kathang isip lang ito ng authors. Wala talaga sila sa reality, although it can be based din naman sa reality, pero hindi siya 100% na yun talaga. May halong imagination na. Maraming purpose ang fiction. Some of these ay to entertain, to inspire, inform, and persuading the audience. When it comes naman sa examples of fiction, kadalasan ang binibigay sa schools natin ay short story and novel. As we all know, basically ang short story ay kayang basahin sa isang upuan lang. Isang story lang kasi yung focus niya at di siya ganun kahaba, while ang novel naman ay nagko-consist ng maraming chapters kung saan there is a story after another focusing on different characters. Basically, parang mga arc lang yan sa anime na pinapanood natin. Subgenres of fiction. Maraming subgenres ang fiction, but maybe we'll just discuss this in another video, pero I'll mention na rin one by one yung binigay na examples ng indie.com. These are mystery, historical fiction, realism, magical realism, fantasy, romance, science fiction, dystopian, horror, fable, and mythology. Now let us proceed with nonfiction. Nonfiction uses actual events, people, places, or facts. Authors of nonfiction usually conduct extensive research. Basically, as we all know, ang nonfiction ay kabaliktaran ng fiction. This is about reality, about facts. Totoong mga pangyayari ang nakasulat dito, kaya naman kailangan talaga ng authors na gumawa ng malalim na research to find the facts that will support what they are writing. Now, what are the examples of nonfiction? First is autobiography. An autobiography is a personal narrative of one's life. When we say autobiography, ang sumulat ito ay yung tao mismo. I mean, yung mismong may-ari ng kwento. For example, ikaw, sinulat mo yung buhay mo. That is an autobiography. The keyword is personal or the person itself. Next, biography. A biography is an account of a person's life written by someone else. Many biographies feature notable individuals such as celebrities, athletes, business leaders, and politicians. Basically, ang biography ay kwento pa rin ng totoong nangyari. Opposite lang siya sa autobiography in a way kung sino ang nagsulat. Now, kung sa autobiography, ang author niya ay yung mismong may-ari ng kwento, ang biography naman ay written by someone else. Ibang tao na nagnanarrate para doon, and kadalasan ang ginagawan dyan ay yung mga artista, mga bayani, politiko at iba pang mga kilala at may impluwensyang tao. Essay. An essay is a short piece of writing in which the author elaborates on an idea or topic after conducting thorough research. Well, basically, ito yung pa-activity lagi sa atin sa school. Write an essay about ganito or ganyan. Non-fiction siya kasi naka-base pa rin siya sa realidad. Need pa rin mag-search to support our views or stand na ipinapakita natin dun sa essay. Sunod ay drama. Drama involves dialogue and performance. The performance of this may occur on stage, in front of a live audience, or through radio, film, and television. It contains acts or scenes that uses props or imaginative dialogue to create a visual experience. Basically, ito na yung kind of literature na intended talaga to be performed. May dialogue na yung palitan ng linya ng mga characters, and may acts and scenes and everything. Usually, dito na papasok yung mga theater plays. Yan yung classic example niyan, pero nowadays, gaya ng sabi sa definition, pwede na rin sa radio, film, or television. Those still utilize props, scripts, and many other elements of drama. Subgenres of drama. First is tragedy. It focuses on hardships causing emotional distress to the protagonist and the challenges that the protagonist experiences. Basically, ito yung mga drama na darker yung theme at usually namamatay yung mga bida sa ending. Yun yung pinaka-remarkable trait niya. And then, comedy. Humorous, and it depicts amusing events in which characters ultimately prevail. Light-hearted tone, clever wordplay, turns of phrase, and humorous discussions of serious topics. Ito namang comedy, mas light, nakakatawa, and sa huli, happy ending kasi laging panalo ang bida. Musical. tells a story through music and include direct expression of themes through song. Basically a type of drama na musical. Then melodrama depicts serious stories. Heroes, heroines, villains, and mentors with flaws who overcome their limitations to achieve success. This is a serious approach gaya ng sinabi sa definition, pero ang keyword dito is exaggerated yung emotions ng characters sa ganitong drama compared sa totoong buhay. Next is prose, a literary genre with no formal metrical structure. Relies on a natural flow of speech and ordinary grammatical structure, clear, concise paragraphs that may be fiction or non-fiction, can be serious or humorous. Well, basically, ang prose ay literature na kabaligtaran ng poetry. Wala siyang meter or rhyme scheme. It's just the normal way of writing with the use of words, sentences, and paragraphs. Pwedeng fictional siya, pwede na naman itong non-fiction. Pwedeng serious at pwede rin namang light yung approach. May pagka-funny, gano'n. Yep, so those are the 5 main literary genres ayon sa Indeed. Pero sa POV ng College of Education, wala yung prose. Instead, mayroong literary criticism kung saan if you're taking BS Ed major in English, you'll definitely have this course or subject. Kaya naman bonus sa video na ito, isinali na rin natin ang quick overview sa isa pang literary genre, which is ang literary criticism. Literary criticism is the practice of studying, evaluating, and interpreting works of literature. It uses a philosophical framework to analyze literature, giving readers new ways to understand an author's work. Basically, literary criticism works like a review. Sinusuri mo rito yung mga existing literary works with the help of the point of view or the different approaches and theories. And yep, may theories siya. Now, what are those? Maraming theories na binigay ang masterclass, pero pinili ko na lang din yung 5 na discuss sa lit crit class namin noon. First, sociological criticism. Evaluates literature based on its relationship to society. One form of sociological criticism is Marxist criticism, which examines how a specific work of literature affirms or rejects oppression within class system. Actually, Marxist criticism ang na-discuss namin, pero it falls under sociological criticism pala. Basically, ang pag-criticize sa isang literary piece in this approach ay based nga sa relasyon ng mga characters sa society. Sa Marxist POV, tinitingnan nito yung social classes. Ano yung status ng character sa lipunan? Ano yung mga abuses? Ano yung mga dapat baguhin sa sistema ng lipunan? It's more like that. Nakikita mo yung mga problems sa social classes. May mas nakakalamang, may naaapi, ganun. Sunod naman, psychoanalytic criticism. Examine literature based on the psychological desires and neuroses of the characters within a particular piece of literature. Well, I could not expound much on this kasi ito nga yung di namin na-discuss, but this approach daw is a deeper look onto the characters to see ano ba yung unconscious thoughts ng authors na expressed through that literary piece. Next is formalism. Examines its formal elements like language and technical skill. Basically, nakapokus naman ito sa form ng literary piece. When we say form, it's more on the technicalities ng literary piece. Reader response criticism is rooted in the belief that a reader's reaction to or interpretation of a text is as valuable a source of critical study as the text itself. Ito naman ay nakafocus sa kung paano ini-interpret ng reader yung literary piece. Ano yung pinaka-nagustuhan mo, saan ka pinaka-nakarelate, ano yung ayaw mo, mga ganon. And finally, feminist criticism. Literary critics began looking to gender studies for new models of literary criticism. Basically, ang tinitingnan sa criticism na ito ay kung ano yung pagtrato sa kababaihan doon sa isang literary piece. It focuses on that versus masculinity. Ano yung pinagkaiba nila sa story? Paano ang pagtrato sa men kumpara sa women because this ideology pushes for gender equality. So basically, that's it. The major literary genres and literary criticism. Alin sa mga genre at subgenres na yan ng literature ang paborito mo? Let us know in the comment section. For our short recap, the 5 major literary genres are poetry, fiction, nonfiction, drama, and prose. Under ng poetry, we have subgenres: epic, narrative, lyric, and dramatic. Under naman ng lyric poem ang elegy, sonnet, and ode. Sa fiction naman, ang main examples natin ay short story at novel, but it also has subgenres as flash in the screen. Then sa non-fiction naman, nakabaliktaran ni fiction, pasok ang autobiography, biography, and essay. Hindi naman papuli ang drama na may subgenres din, namely tragedy, comedy, musical, and melodrama. At sa ating bonus for this video, ang literary criticism, ang examples naman nito ay sociological criticism, psychoanalytic criticism, reader response criticism, formalism, and feminist criticism. If you find this video helpful at kung gusto mo pa ng English lesson videos like this, please don't forget to leave a like, subscribe, and share it with your classmates and friends. Of course, feel free to comment as well. All of those are greatly appreciated.